Good afternoon, and welcome to the July 13th meeting of the Energy and Environmental Conservation Committee for the Town of Penfield. I'm Cynette Cavaliere, the chair of this group. This is our first meeting since May 11th. We ended up having to cancel the June meeting, so welcome back, everybody. It feels like it's been a minute, so. My tradition typically has been to run through and just do real quick introductions, just so people know who is in the room. So Mark, if you would like to start there, and we'll go this way.
Sure. Mark Valentine, town engineer.
Doug Sangster, town planner.
Sarah Waterman, sustainability engineer.
Matt Prinzing, junior planner.
Rosanne Cohen, member of the committee.
Roy Green, committee member.
Cynette Cavaliere.
Pat Schichler, committee member.
Daniel Moore, a member of the committee.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so our first item on our agenda is the review and approval of the minutes from the May 11th meeting. Is there a way to put up the agenda on the screen for us? Just so
Thank
we
you.
have that, okay. So hopefully everybody had a chance in early June to review those, if not more recently. Are there any corrections that need to take place on those minutes? If so, can I have a motion to approve them?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank
I'll
you.
second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Great. They are approved. Thank you once again, Matt, for another outstanding job in putting them together, especially with our work session and all of the conversations in there. Okay, our next item is our standing report on the Monroe County Environmental Management Council. So Daniel, do you have a report? And this is also, I did include an opportunity for you to talk about the membership role.
Yes. So hi, everyone. So I don't have a report because the EMC, or the Environmental Management Council of Monroe County, does not meet during the summer. However, because of me going away for college, I will no longer be able to attend the Monroe County meetings. And so if anyone is interested, I can point you who to talk to after.
This is a standing open seat for our group, so I would love it if somebody within our group could take on that role.
I did it a couple years ago. They're very interesting meetings.
They sounded
It's just
fascinating.
once a month, right?
Yeah.
Once a month, yeah.
The meetings are the third Wednesday of each month. Generally, people start getting there about 3:45. The meeting starts at 4 officially, and it most of the time goes till 5:30 or a tiny bit after. So if any of the committee members would have that availability and interest, the town would look to keep someone attending that meeting.
I can't at this time. I have Wednesday commitments. I already
Sure.
have.
Where do they meet now?
They meet at the Monroe County Public Health Building, and they keep changing around where in the building, but it's in that building.
Is that on Westfall Road?
Yes.
Okay.
Roy, is it something you would be interested in or have the time to do?
Interested, but not the time.
Given that, I mean, I would love to do it. I just wanted to make sure that the rest of you did have a chance. And obviously, I'm free these days, a little bit more than usual, so. So I'll work with you, Daniel, and see if you can get me the connections. That would be awesome. Okay. I would like to thank Daniel for your attendance at those for however long it's been. I know it's been at least since we've been a team, but I think you were doing it before that.
Just 1 month before.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry it's so short then, because you really did seem to enjoy those, and I hope that after you get to a different stage of your college career, you can pick it up again.
Yeah.
So I think they've been very beneficial to you, and I appreciate you taking that initiative and doing that, so thank you. Okay, anything else regarding that? Okay. We'll move on to our review of required items. The first one is on town development projects, and we have one. So this is very cool for us.
So Matt is pulling up Wellsbrook, which is 1345 Shoecraft. This property is a 14.55 acre lot. The developer is looking to put in 22 duplexes and have one separate parcel. The duplexes, they're looking to, what's the word?
Cluster?
Cluster, thank you. They're looking to do a cluster subdivision with them to help conserve some of the land on the property. So they're also looking to have 4.3 acres of the property maintained by the HOA as HOA lands. That will include the road as well as the stormwater management facility. And Matt, if you want to pull up the site plan,
Yeah.
just so they get a brief idea. As we move forward with the review of these properties or these sites that are coming in, to start off, ideally, we'd like to have 2 members from the previous Conservation Board and 1 from the previous Energy and Environmental Advisory Committee work on the project together, just so that the people who have done these reviews before can help guide the people that are a little newer to it. And then as we move forward, we'll specifically regularly schedule the different members to review. So if it works for the members, we were looking at Daniel, Pat, and Roy to do the first review. We would need to have your review in a week before the next meeting, which would be the first week in August. Just so that staff can do any formatting that's necessary and work with the members if there's anything that needs to be changed to make it fit the format for the board. That would also allow it to go to the board before their public hearing.
Okay, so, yes, that's fine with me. I was just wondering, now, Doug knows I would be on the phone. Doug, can you explain this? Now, we'll be calling Matt, or do we still get to call Doug, or how does this work?
If there's any questions, you can reach out to Matt and I. Matt and I are the staff liaisons for this committee.
Okay.
And we're happy to answer any questions by email, by phone, whatever you
Okay.
need. As time goes on, if requested, will provide 11 by 17 inch plans. For this one, we specifically printed out a set of full-size plans.
Okay.
But if the committee members don't feel a need to have the paper
Sure.
copies, we won't provide them. So just let us know that you want those and
Okay.
continue to let us know, and that's not a problem. If there is an extra copy upstairs of the full-size set, we will always provide that, just for the committee members to use and then take back for our files.
And that's what we've done before. When we've gotten full-size plans, we've returned them because we don't need to hang on to these
Sure.
pieces of paper. But I know it's using paper up, but generally we would be provided, Doug, we'd be provided with the letter of intent and the application and all of that, only because I'm going to have to go back and print myself. And
Sure, we can provide that for you too. That's
Can you
not
do
a
that?
problem.
Okay, just,
So
always
those are
running
basic.
out of printer ink.
So those are basically the application documents, and we
Mm-hmm.
can provide a copy of that to go with the set of plans.
Those were all in the folder as well, though.
Those
They're-
were
they're
all
there.
digitally provided, but I don't believe we provided the other application documents at this meeting so far. That's
Right.
correct,
We
They are
have
in the Google Drive folder.
We have the architectural
But
renderings.
yes, right, yeah, so just
right?
printed for you for
Architectural
this meeting.
renderings?
Well, whatever this is, we
So
have
The site
all
plan.
all of
Those are the
these.
site plans.
Yeah.
The site plans, whatever has been, maybe I misused the term,
okay.
but the site plans, anything the planners have done, but we usually like to get the letters, and if there's any GIS that goes with it, or EAF or short EAF that have been submitted.
Okay. We can definitely provide that.
As we scrutinize all of that as we're reviewing the site and looking at it, and have it right there when we're submitting our reports.
Okay, so just to give us a real quick synopsis, or Roy and I, a real quick synopsis, you actually go see the site?
Oh, yes.
You actually?
It's always, it's pretty, there's very, very few that aren't boots on the ground, and generally, those are the ones that we've probably just said, oh, we don't really need to look at it. So depending on the time of year, what the site is, it's, high waders or boots or that one site we went into by, there used to be an antique shop up in there. I think it's a brew house now. We drive up in as far as we could get and walk from there.
And then because there is that desire to visit the sites, we would like, as the town, to provide the committee members with ID badges that say that you're from this committee.
Yes.
Because there's been the transition from Conservation Board to Energy and Environmental Conservation Committee, we'll update the previous ID badges. So if either the members can provide a picture to us with a blank background, or you can come into the town hall during business hours and someone can take a picture of you for your ID badge.
Okay.
And anytime you visit a site, we'll want you to have an ID badge on you.
Yeah.
Obviously, Roy, you don't have one at all yet, so that may take a little bit of time, but if you're attending with Pat and Daniel, I don't think that should be a
you
problem
even have
for this
one?
time.
I don't have one.
Mine is so old that they
Then
were not
we will work as
regularly
fast as we
updated.
can.
That wasn't, I'm not even sure if I know where mine is anymore.
That's okay. We'll work as fast as we can to get you
Okay.
new ones. We need the
Pictures.
picture sent, or we need you to come on in and let us
So
know
we
what
can,
works
we
for
can
you.
just email you a picture?
Yep, no problem.
Okay. I'll work
Stand
on
you
it.
up against a wall and just
Yeah.
take
Yep.
them all
Just a
here.
blank
and
wall.
just do that
Yeah.
too, so.
So when you go on the sites, do you go with a site representative as well?
If you do it during business hours, you can do it with town staff. And I don't think previously the Conservation Board has always gone with a site representative, but we would like to let them know when you'll be entering the site, just so it's not completely a surprise. So if you can let us know kind of a time period,
We
we'll work that
can,
out.
but we've never done that before either.
That's okay.
With their application, they basically sign something that says town staff and all committees, boards have the right to go on the property. So we've already been granted permission by the property owners. That's right in our
mean, if
application
it's
form. It
been-
says that we've got the right to be there, and that's, again, to have an ID card. If the owner comes out and says, hey, who are you, when you're walking around,
And
the
if you're
project's
in
under review by the town of
Or, yeah,
Penfield, we're on
Or
a,
for like this, when neighbors on Plank and Shoecraft, the
Yes,
state
and
might see you and it'd
we've
be.
introduced ourselves before, if somebody comes out, we don't generally, most of them are going to be like this, where it's vacant
Yep.
properties. Some, if it's right at the home, again, we'll introduce ourselves. We do refrain from discussing with the homeowner or the property owner. We're just there to review. We're not there to give our opinions or try to answer their questions about anything, so that.
And we just want to let the developer know, or the property owner know that people will be entering their property as a courtesy. That's all.
Oh,
It's not-
sure,
yeah.
I'm just saying we have, because it's people trying to juggle schedules around, and a lot of times it's dependent upon the weather.
Absolutely.
So, and so we will, with plans in hand, we have before met at a coffee shop, beforehand to discuss and look at what we're seeing, so we could discuss together. Then, it's not a requirement, but this way you're, again, depending on weather, you're not doing that in frigid cold or 90-degree heat, and
And if it's during business hours, we can set you up in one of our conference rooms as well. That's not a problem either.
one of
Just
the
if that's
donut
easier.
shops around the corner has been, usually, it's informal as far as that goes. And try to mark out things that we see questions on, then just having our wits about us when we go out as far as, my background is not engineering. Some of the members that we lost, had years of experience at that. So Daniel, I'm not sure, did you get to go out on maybe one or two at?
A few, yes.
Okay, all right. I noticed that the plans or the examples that you pulled were ones that I had worked on.
Oh, we were trying to pull ones that were similar EPODs. So both of those
Oh,
projects had
okay.
woodlot EPODs. This one specifically has a woodlot. It doesn't have any others. So we just wanted something as comparable as possible.
Oh, okay, okay.
But it was good for me to see your name on there, just because I was like, oh, she's really done this before, so.
Yeah, yes, I've,
Yes.
yeah, and having been the new person at one time, I've gotten used to how I learned to do it, and, you know, when I was I never got to work with Daniel on one, but when I was working with Jeff, I was working with, you know, sort of showing him how to train or train how to do it, so.
Great. We appreciate you guys working to get out there, and if you have any questions or any needs from staff, we are happy to help facilitate.
So basically, the three of them just kind of work together to coordinate a time to get out.
Yeah,
there.
we don't have to take up meeting time to do that, so
Yeah.
after the meeting, we can see what our schedules are.
So I have a question about the EPOD itself, right? So I was reading through the town, chapter 250, zoning and land use, article 6, overlay districts, EPODs, and specifically around EPOD 3, woodland protection overlay districts. And it talks about if you're disturbing more than 10% of the original woodland protection overlay district, you would have to do mitigation efforts, so planting trees and that sort of thing. And examples provided, I didn't really see much of that occurring. And I was just wondering, like, is this a guide or is this written in stone? Is it, if it's here?
So 250 is the town code. When subdivisions are going in, it's actually a requirement that trees are planted as street trees. I think at least currently, they're just outside of the right-of-way, but we require them on the plans, and you'll see on the plans where those are going to be going in, or approximately where. So I think it would be up to the committee if you would consider that mitigation or not. And then part of the reason specifically for this plan of doing the cluster is to conserve more property.
I'm sorry, what's the last thought?
Part of the reason for clustering for this subdivision
conserve
is to
right.
conserve property.
Yes. Is that 278?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's state town law 278?
Yes.
Yep.
They're also required to do plantings around the pond area. So as part of their stormwater plan, there needs to be an aquatic bench, plantings around the pond. So those should be on the plan as well to look
And
at.
then this one, it does express in the letter of intent that 23rd lot is planned to be currently a senior living facility. That we have received a sketch plan application, but it has not formally been accepted yet or published. So we haven't provided all of that information just because it's not formal at this point, what they're actually going to do with it. But so you're aware, since that is in the letter of intent, kind of what's going on with that.
Right, so should not include that as part of the land that's being preserved? quote unquote.
That will not be included as part of the land being preserved.
So it does also talk about a tree preservation plan. Is that something that was provided for this?
I think I believe on their demo plan, they do show what part of the land will not be disturbed, as well as their erosion control plan. They show where disturbance will be. I don't think they mark out each individual tree, though.
That's what that's probably the bane of our existence, is looking at plans and trying to determine where construction will be in relation to how many trees will be taken down and what will be preserved. And, you know, it's been I think, Rosanne, remind me if we've had a long-standing time where we wish people would mark trees because we can't always
Which ones they're
tell where we
keeping.
are and which one we're talking about.
Sometimes they
Might-
have been marked, but not always.
Yeah.
And it can be a
So-
recommendation. I know previously Conservation Board, it has been a recommendation, if you guys have gone out, saw substantial trees, ones that the board thought should be preserved, that requesting or writing recommendation to the planning board that they have the applicant provide a tree survey or some other instrumentation or documentation on substantial trees, whether that's a specific caliper or larger, or requesting that they preserve as many trees as possible and show those on the plans, things like that.
So
So
this
it's
is
been
a,
something we've requested.
this is a pretty wooded area, but that being said, like the requirements in the EPOD says that, if it's 8 inches to 18 inches DBH, then you need to plant 2 trees, minimum of a 2-inch caliber per every tree removed in excess of 10% of the woodland EPOD on the property. 18 inches and over, planting 3 trees minimum, 2-inch caliber per every tree removed. But how would you do that unless you did a specific tree inventory and identified the sizes of the trees and that sort of thing?
Well, we will go out and when we're surveying, we are looking at exactly which trees we feel meet that significant tree definition. And sometimes it's when you're out there, it's readily apparent, well, this is an EPOD, it basically learned throughout all of these, just because there's an EPOD doesn't mean thou shalt not at all.
Yeah, of course.
And that it's this mitigation, and so we will say, I think one of the reports here says something about there aren't any significant trees. And if there are, we will we will say this stand here is, or this is over here, and we end up saying something along the lines of, we recommend that they adhere to the street tree policy, which is the replacement, what they're taking out that they're replacing. And so we're not ever, I never recall us putting in a report, well, they're taking this one down, so that means they have to put 3 over here, right? We've never done that.
We haven't typically done it that way. One of the other things, and this is one of the tasks, we like this committee to assist with in the review, is that the woodlot EPOD boundaries are established by aerial survey mapping and rough calculations to determine areas of 5 acres of contiguous wooded area. The quality of that wooded area is sometimes difficult to determine through aerial imagery alone. It can look like a heavily wooded area in an aerial map, and you get there and it's all scrub brush, or it's dead, or it's ivy covered trees and things like that aren't necessarily preservation worthy or something to take into consideration. So you may have an 8-inch tree or a bunch of 8-inch trees, but they're all dead trees. We typically haven't applied replacement policies to dead or diseased trees, or if there are specific categories, like it's heavily wooded with ash trees, with the emerald ash borer, or elm trees with the Dutch elm disease, where preservation isn't likely to actually save the trees. They're, especially if trees in the area are diseased or infested. So a lot of it is a judgment call on the part of the committee.
What about habitats, and how do you identify and determine what's significant?
We haven't, we've noted there's certain wildlife and such out there, but I do remember a steep slopes area, trying to think where it was, one of the, probably off around Linden perhaps, some of the office buildings there, and it really, building went on. I was like, but what about this animal up in the tree? And it's...
We do occasionally have, through the DEC or other state-level organizations, we do have specific data on things like noted habitats for endangered species, and it's something we usually can provide through GIS. There's none identified on this site, and there's only a few sites located in Penfield where they've identified specific species.
And most often, that restricts the timing for construction, not simply construction at all.
I think maybe when they were building along the bay there in the Eagle's Nest, there may have been some of that, and not so much timing Do you remember anything else?
I remember there was.
I mean, for that one.
Well, the
for
Eagles
that
Nest,
one there was, but-
it restricted development hours and development times. They were only allowed to do it specific months of the year during specific times.
And as far as an endangered species, I do know that same steep slope one we were looking at, there was like, well, at one time there had been such and such, and we looked as hard as we could, to find evidence of it, and it's, nothing to be seen. So, but it was in the, so many years, I don't remember it all, but it may have been noted in the plans or something that there was a possibility of such and such, and there was no evidence. In terms of the trees, if there is a significant tree that's not being taken down, but it's close to construction, we concern ourselves, how much is the construction going, how close is it going to be? You're going to be parking huge machinery or trucks over where we think the root system, underneath the mantle of the tree, because that would harm the health of the tree possibly.
And in situations like that, some projects have had protection required.
Mm-hmm. And so that would be something that we would note, but some of the things that we notice but aren't necessarily in our purview, you won't find it in our report, maybe we'll discuss it, or maybe we'd say we refer, them to watch out for this stormwater issue or that, but and we're not really there to analyze the stormwater plan. That's not us.
Really, this committee is there to review the EPODs on the property and how those are going to be affected. There are people that specifically review stormwater and site design and all of those different things.
Sure. Thank you, that helps.
Does it? Okay. I mean, at that point, as I said, in some instances, I was feeling with the other experienced people, I'd feel at a loss, but after going to the site, there's things that you notice that different eyes, that's why I think, I said there's generally two of us, there's always been two, at least two, because they're different eyes, different viewpoints, see different things.
And we'll look to continue to have at least two. We just specifically want three until the members are all comfortable.
And something that's just a red flag to you. You don't even know what it is until you see it, so. And that's when, if we're not sure about something, we go back and ask questions. And Doug used to give us a heads up of certain things to watch out for too, so, and Matt, and you're reviewing anything, it's always helpful in advance. Sorry, Cynette.
Good. And I saw in one of your reports that there was a preliminary report where you asked for something and then the final report came and they'd addressed your concerns. So it does have an impact, your recommendations. So, okay, so you three are good with this? I'm kind of excited for you. So. Any other questions or concerns regarding that? If not, we'll move on. Okay, good. Any requests from the town board?
There is no specific request right now, but just did want to share that the town comprehensive plan is out and available on the website. We shared that at the previous months. The board is and had said they'll take comments up until July 19th, so which is next week. Then the board will be discussing all comments received and then looking to do a next draft. So if anybody has any additional comments here in this committee, as well as putting it out to the public, just another opportunity for people to go on. It is on the website, take a look. And please feel free to share your comments back. I believe they're directing them to supervisor@penfield.org is the place to send those, and then they'll trickle down to Doug and Carrie and staff.
Okay, thank you for that. Clean energy community.
We, in the past couple of months, have submitted applications for approval of the town purchasing an EV. The town purchased a Bolt EV for the assessor's department. as well as for the installation of the new charging station. And at this point, those are showing up on the website. So hopefully soon we'll get our formal designation.
Yep. And we party.
You and Bob had to battle who got here first for the electric car charging
Yes.
station. Now we've got two, so.
Yeah.
Unless
I
the
usually
bolts
don't
have
take it just because I've driven 3 miles. It doesn't make sense to plug in to top off after the 3 miles. But-
Yep.
Okay. Old business. Moving on to that. Our first item is the renewable energy certificates. I don't know if you have any updates.
I don't at this time. I did check in on it again last week, and we're waiting for the documentation.
Okay, and then the second item that's on old business is fun for us. That's our work session for the tree ordinance. Seen at least a lot of action on the online version of the documentation. So I appreciate that. This will be a little bit interesting at the setup here compared to our last meeting.
And this setup, we're set up this way because there's a public hearing tonight. So anytime there's a public hearing, we'll be this way at this point, and if there's not, we'll be the other way.
It seems as if like between our last meeting and as recent as today, all the members have been, commenting, and you'll see on the right-hand side the comments. We were thinking we can kind of just go through this draft again, and in the context of the comments on the right-hand side, and discuss them, one by one as we go through. But yeah, so it appears that everyone had access to this and is comfortable. I was making edits throughout as people recommended them. If it was, very clear cut, like, okay, we have, want this change, or if there was a comment about just the format, then I would make that change. But yeah, there were other, comments about just, more broader discussions that we would have to have with the group, and that's what we're thinking of having today. But yeah, as we can continue to draft, we can keep having these discussions offline through the comments here.
So it kind of reads like there's at least 2 points specifically that we should talk about as a group. One is on the tree advisory board, and the other one is on the forestry plan. I think that's what it was called, whether we still want those as a group.
Right.
So.
Can you please expand the show more and the 3 replies for Daniel,
Sure.
just to allow the group to go through them, if that is helpful?
Yeah.
And we can actually discuss these things right now if you guys want.
Yep.
Maybe Daniel, you could start, since you started the conversation
I think
online.
that those would be the best of anything that we have time for. Those 2 items would be the best ones for us to wrestle with together.
May I start with that?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So I was looking at the Tree City USA status requirements, and I have a whole lot of papers with me, which luckily all the papers are sustainably printed. But so I'm looking at first the spreadsheet that was made on Excel of which authority/power do each of the tree code have. So like, for example, like Greece, Brighton, and Arundecoit, all of the examples from Monroe County, they all have tree councils along with shared responsibility with Public Works. And when I read the draft tree ordinance, I did ask, where it's shown on the screen, why isn't Penfield doing it? And then it was brought up that, we're not a legal board, so we can't make legal bound decisions. However, I looked a little bit further and I found the annotated version of the sample municipal ordinance. And so, although within it, it says that all pruning, removal, maintaining removal of all trees goes to the Public Works or just director as it's mentioned. It does suggest that a tree advisory board advises the Department of Public Works in our case. And so I think that would be incredibly beneficial that we do have a tree advisory board or committee, because boards in this town are generally towards legal bound, but committees are not. So we can always name it like tree council, as it said here, or tree committee. But the benefits outweigh there's no negative to having a tree board. There has been a lot of public discourse amongst, like, the last time there was a public hearing of the comprehensive committee, there were members of the public that were asking specifically for a tree board, tree committee. And so I think it would be the best interest if we do move forward with a tree advisory committee.
So in situations like a tree fell down on a road, or a branch from a tree fell down on the road and the rest of the tree is dangerous, how would the tree council handle those types of situations?
So according to the sample, all of the delegation authority and responsibility of removing said tree would be with Public Works. However, the tree council can advise, like.
So would they be the group deciding if the tree is removed?
It wouldn't be, let's see. So according to here, it does say that it coordinates Arbor Day activities, which is kind of what the Conservation Board did a few years ago, creating a 5-year plan to plant trees. So that would be kind of like the forestry plan. And supporting public awareness and educational programs. It wouldn't necessarily be like, should we remove it? Because if there's a tree in the road, then obviously it has to be removed, and Public Works can do that.
So those items that you brought up, those are items that are already under the purview of this committee. So in my opinion, I don't think a tree council would be necessary to complete those items, because we're already going in that direction, doing those things. But if you feel that a tree council is necessary for decision-making if trees are removed, then I think we should get into how those decisions would be made.
I think it's more a question of, and using other towns as a guide. Sure. It's more a question of formalizing that these are under the purview of the Conservation Board. So it may not be to name a tree council or tree board, but which was my comment, to reference back to the EEEC, and within this, identify these are the activities, because, and that also meets for the tree town status for a tree council, not going in the way of, oh, this group makes the approval of this comes down, this stays in, oh, there's, danger, there's a tree down or one about to fall on somebody, but more of these other activities. And it, could be delineated within this, that is what they are to do, because otherwise it also leaves out and for other towns, their conservation boards, it leaves out the EEEC, the aspect of conservation board that we do.
I think I'm a little confused, I'm sorry.
Well, without mentioning this in there, it's, whereas other towns are referring back to their conservation board for certain activities within their ordinances, that, it's a obvious not referring back to Conservation Board in this, leaving us out, so to speak, whereas we are one of the spurs to doing the thing.
Okay, so that's, I think I'm understanding. So if we were to look at the responsibility, authority, and power section, where they have the delegation of authority and responsibility, the idea perhaps would be that there be an additional clause that calls out the committee and those specific roles, or whatever roles we've identified. So at least that it's listed there, not taking away that delegation of authority and responsibility in the first clause Clause A, nor changing the coordination among town departments, but adding in.
Basically, defining what the role of Energy and Environmental Conservation Committee is in this tree ordinance.
Yes.
And does all of the committee members feel it's appropriate in the tree ordinance to define what the committee's role is as a committee?
In relation to this ordinance, yes.
Okay. So what's specifically required by the Tree City USA is to have an Arbor Day festival or celebration every year. It is not to have a planting every year. And I think based on what the decision the committee made this year to not do a planting, I don't think we should formally include that. But I think it would be appropriate with the agreeing of the committee, all of the committee members, so maybe we can take a quick vote just to formalize it, that we include a clause saying what the requirements of the Tree City USA are for this committee.
Can I entertain a motion for that?
Bring up something quickly first beforehand. So what other towns have done with their tree council or tree board, whatever they call them, it's essentially just this board plus a handful of others, maybe from Public Works, to have said tree council. And what I'm concerned mostly about is, like, unless we designate ourselves as a tree council, like, we could always say, like, the roles of the tree council are, I think that's what we were trying to get forward to, but it says multiple times throughout the Tree City that we need a tree something or other, and so my fear is that if we don't include that, we might not get designated as such, and it will also give the opportunity for the public, because a lot of public members that I've been talking to are concerned about trees that are coming down that are on public property, and so right now our committee does not have a public section to speak at, and so since a lot of people care deeply about trees, this would give opportunity for public members to basically discuss with this potential board of, like, or committee,
So
council, yeah.
So you're talking a separate, slightly separate organization, perhaps expanded.
Slightly, yes.
That
So it-
falls back to the decision made by the town board, and formally this not being a decision-making body, that we do not actually have a public participation section. So that's not a decision that any of us staff members or any of the committee members get to make. It's a town board decision, and that's why they have a public participation section at their meetings. So I don't think that in this ordinance we can actually do that.
Can we then talk to them about it? Because I think it would
That
be
can be a
incredibly
request that's made.
beneficial, so.
And actually, I had, when Jim Almstead was in, I had heard back that the first iteration of this was that it did not include EEEC or Conservation Board at that time, but it actually did include members of the public, that's what they were looking to do. So it's a little bit of a specific change from what I was hearing was being proposed.
Sure, and as we talked about when we brought the tree ordinance to this new committee, was that this new committee was essentially starting from scratch.
Yes, but something that maybe we want to look back at.
So for the tree council, are you proposing it's a separate meeting that occurs independent of the EECC meetings?
I would have to look into what the other towns do, because it is, according to Greece, Brighton, and Arundecoit, they all, like, all the tree council members are all members of their conservation boards, or in our case, the Energy and Environmental Conservation Committee. So I would have to look into that. But since it's the same people, it would be it would potentially be like, oh, we're going to focus solely on trees for a section or something like
So
that.
a standing agenda item.
Yes.
Something like that, but it's like separate committee, but it's just to fulfill the Tree City USA standards.
Except for, to Sarah's point, the public comment piece of that, how do we get them involved? We'd have to change what the board has allowed us to do.
That's correct.
I mean, I think as long as it's a listed agenda item, I mean, we can add agenda items, we just don't have open public participation. So if someone raises a question, has something ahead of time and wants this committee to address it, as long as it's advertised and it's on the agenda, you know, so that may be a way that we could incorporate some of
So
that tree
follow
stuff
that
in.
Sounds
protocol
reasonable.
that
If
the
we've got
supervisor sent
it in
out to
there.
us for,
Yeah. The only other thing I'd like to add, and, you know, as we're talking about the tree board, I just think we need to make sure we need to be, into Sarah's point of we've got hazard conditions, we need to be nimble enough that the DPW is out there all day, every day. This committee meets once a month. If somebody comes with a concern, we just need to make sure we don't encumber or sort of handcuff ourselves that it takes 2 months to take a dangerous tree down or do something
I
else.
can
I
sounds
just-
like
assure you that we are not interested in that.
But I'm just saying, I just don't want to lead into that.
Yeah,
We've gotta
no,
wait.
let's-
Somebody comes and
yeah.
talks about a tree, wait next month, we make a decision.
yes. It sounds to
We need
me
to
like
be-
the proposal is to not encompass any of that particular role, though. It's more the idea of the planning role, the public awareness role,
So-
and not the day-to-day tree in the woods.
So under authority and power, what would you designate the next clause? Since there's one for delegation of authority and responsibility, there's one for coordination among town departments, how would you,
How would we title it? What would we say?
Yep. How would you go for the next
To me, it sounds like a
section?
little bit of,
do you mind?
almost like a definition sort of thing, role of,
Like
You know,
role
or-
of energy and environmental,
Public education and
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Arbor
something
Day.
more
like
of an
that.
Arbor Day advocate and
So we
education.
should vote though and
Yeah.
see if we should want it a tree council, to Daniel's point, which I think, in my opinion, we probably should just call it if you don't want to call it a tree board, call it a tree council or tree committee or.
and like the way that the base ordinance that we gave the committee, that itself will pass for Tree City USA. So you don't actually have to define in the code who falls under the tree council. You have to define who has the authority and power. So just so that's clear, that does not have to be a defined statement to be a Tree City USA. So whether the EECC is declared as the body that does public education and such, or if it's declared a tree council, however that is defined, it does not have to be tree council in this document to be a Tree City USA, just so that's clarified.
Yeah. All right, if that's the case, then I think we just define the EECC delegation of authority, essentially our piece of it. And then we can set up however we want for the tree council as a standing agenda item.
Okay, so do we somebody want to put that into the terms of a motion, or?
I think that we just need to clarify and probably just look at other ordinances because we're talking about two very different things.
So why don't we do it this way? Why don't we say that as part of our discussion, it is noted that we want something in here and not make it a formal anything as of today, and see if we can go ahead and use our comment process to come up with a couple versions of defining it, what you guys are thinking.
I agree to that.
That
It's
sounds
hard to
great.
Okay.
wordsmith something.
And in the meanwhile, I think it would be appropriate for Matt and I to reach out to other municipalities in the area and find out who is on their tree councils.
And what do they actually do?
Yep, yeah,
Do they meet separate from, like, their
I
conservation?
think that'd be
boards?
great.
I can speak that Brighton does not meet separate, so their tree council is their conservation board. And if you want to look at their minutes, they have sections where they talk about tree council duties. And so that's a sense of like, if anybody wants to look at that they can consider that as, you know, an example of what another municipality is doing.
Good.
And that's a case of where authority and power is similar to what we have drafted, is very similar of like a Department of Public Works, but the tree council is a separate entity that doesn't necessarily have that full authority as stated here to, prune, maintain, and remove trees. But their tree council is responsible for drafting and providing their tree plan, the forestry plan. So I know at previous meetings we had, hesitated to delegate this committee with creating a forestry plan, perhaps, having further discussions about how we would develop something like that, if that was required by the code, or if it's just something that, that's definitely something I think where we need to have further discussions of the difference between authority and power to maintain trees or authority and power to talk about and discuss planning for trees. So
That's, you've hit it.
great.
Good.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay. So based on that, I think I want to jump to the second hot topic, which is on the development of a separate forestry plan versus incorporating either by reference town practices or some specific management practices in this document. So I think, Daniel, I'm going to start with you, only because I have a feeling that you've done the most research on what is in forestry plans and how that would impact us.
So there's many examples that I researched from. According to some of the sample ordinances, which I don't necessarily agree with, they have the forestry plan written in code. And part of the meeting that we talked about in May was not having it, because in case we had to update it, it would be better for just to update it without having to have 4 months of public hearings or whatever amount it was. And so after researching, I'm pretty confident of we can have a separate document that we reference in the code. To basically it's not in the code, but we can reference it and such.
Okay. So were you comfortable with the wording of that standards clause that is up there? Just the idea that there is a separate set of standards that,
Yeah. I think that's fine, yeah.
okay. So is that different, Roy, with what your concept of what you were thinking with a forestry plan itself? Or is that part of the idea of a 5-year plan or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a forestry plan, I'm thinking more comprehensive, and I'm thinking who would develop it. So, if it's just general guidelines, about what trees can be planted and that sort of thing, and replanting and when to cut down trees and stuff like that, that's one thing versus an actual forestry plan of we're going to increase the amount of forest we have and that sort of thing. So, and I'll be honest, I didn't do a lot of benchmarking against other municipalities, but I don't know. I think it might be worth, if we're going to do something like this, to do it right and have a comprehensive type forestry plan.
When you're looking to the other municipalities of how their tree council incorporates with their conservation board in this, would it be something that you can ask about of their forestry plan and who is doing that? And
Yeah.
I'm just asking. I don't
Oh,
know
sure.
the answer to that. If it's a reasonable thing to do.
Do you
or-
mean who's putting together the forestry plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah, we can definitely look at who their sources are for that. If in the documents that we shared with their forestry plans for Brighton, there's usually an arborist associated with it, so it's drafted alongside with them.
Yes.
So I know that for the design specs, we work with Bruce Zaretsky, who's not an arborist, but he's a landscape architect, correct? So I mean, that would be someone that we can potentially speak with and, see if that's, a person that we can use to help at least, foster this discussion for a forestry plan and how they, because I know that when we spoke with Eric Tate and trying to put like what his practices are and what DPW's practices are to pen and paper. And it sounds from that discussion that it was very dynamic, that they're learning and being able to adapt their practices based on going to different teachings throughout the year. So when you have a town forestry plan that's from back in, I know that some of them date back to like 2005. So looking at how towns not only drafted it, but how they're updating it, and making it more current. And so, yeah, it's all things that we can definitely bring back to you guys.
And I
have
realize
further
we're not
discussions.
experts, nor would we ever propose to try to make but the ideas for kind of making sure it happens and reaching out to people that do have the knowledge and expertise to do it.
When looking at I didn't print it out with me because it's a fairly long document, but the town of Brighton has the forestry plan as shown on here, and that's really why I brought up public participation, is that they actually had members of the public, they had their town arborist, they had their conservation board, tree council, they had all sorts of collaboration, so I feel that would be, if we talk to the town board about having some sort of participation, like how the conservation board had it, is that just someone mailing in something, someone emailing something in for questions. But if we're gonna make a forestry plan, I think that it would be beneficial to residents of Penfield to chip in on their conversation as well. So that would be something we would have to, if we're gonna move forward with a plan, that would be beneficial.
Okay.
Slight loss of words here, sorry. I'm a slight loss of words here.
Well, it's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's not going to happen overnight. So I think it sounds to me like we humbly request that you do some more reconnaissance with the local towns. And then we'll kind of go forward. My take had been that the one gap in what we own within this document and within the town is just the idea of maintenance standards. So it sounded like there was enough design specs, there was planning standards, that the real gap was in the maintenance standards. And whether or not that's just taking all of the discussions that we had with Eric and trying to formalize that process a little bit more. And whether or not we wanted to kind of take that on as a group, as part of like more of a comprehensive plan, a 5-year plan, is to take and formalize their processes a little bit. However, in a way that makes them organic and able to change and react, which I think is always our concern in setting a standard.
But more of a how-to in a way as well, because I remember asking the questions, well, how did you know, or how do you learn?
Right.
And, you're always learning from your predecessor, but you want to be able to pass something down so that all the knowledge isn't, in your self. It's impossible to handle all of that. There's always going to be a certain amount of knowledge retained by an individual that's not going to be memorialized, but something that can be picked up to have some kind of ideas.
Sure, just like having procedures written down. It's very important.
Absolutely. So maybe in that reconnaissance is in their first ever tree forestry plan, what did they do?
Great.
It'd be interesting to see how many of those, municipalities that we benchmark against paid for an arborist to come in and do the initial plans, or even the public input is great, but you gotta have a straw man to start with, right? Like you can't like just sit there with a blank piece of paper and say, okay, let's come up with a forestry plan. This is not gonna work, so.
It may be that they had an arborist come in and do that straw man. It may be that they took an example from a neighboring municipality and started with that, to kind of like we have for the tree ordinance from Tree City, USA. But we can definitely find the answer to that.
Yeah. And then the follow-up question is, do we have budget, or does the town have budget to pay for something if we did want an arborist to come in and help
The
us out?
town currently has Bruce Duretzky as the landscape architect on contract. At this time, I don't believe there's a specific budget line for a town arborist. But I think we can discuss within the engineering and planning departments what route would be possible. I believe budgets for next year are just starting to get reviewed, but they're already in, like preliminarily. So if we're looking to add kind of a larger line item, that may need to be put on a future budget.
Is it too late to add anything at this point? Since it's
That's a
just
good
in
Mark
review,
question.
there's always time.
That's a good Mark question.
We're getting close, but I do have a meeting next week, so I can float it out there and see what the thoughts are.
Yeah, and nothing against our landscape architect. I think they could be a great addition to developing a forestry plan, but I think you do need an arborist or maybe a consulting firm if there is such a thing that does it, but somebody that helps, that can help.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if that was the end of that
Yeah,
statement.
no,
That was,
I've not created one, so I don't have that background experience. You know, I can reach out to Bruce first, see what his experience background is.
I think we asked that something at the last meeting as well,
Yeah.
and you guys just don't know whether he is or not.
And he's looking at our
Yeah.
tree guidelines, he's
Yep.
looking at other stuff for us, he's doing plantings, I mean,
And he previously has done that.
yeah, I mean.
So he could be
he's-
he could be already have that kind of qualification. It's just
Just
they
not-
know him as
Yeah, I mean,
a
most people think of
landscape
landscape architect design, I mean,
Yes.
he gets paid to travel the country and speak, you know, as an expert in
Yeah.
lots of things all across the country, so, you know,
Yeah.
he may be able to provide a lot of that content.
and it's great, and it's a good skill set, and I'm not discounting it, but it's not the same as an arborist per se. And like I ran a FSC program, a Forest Stewardship Council program for 10 years, and I would not consider myself an arborist. Similar, similar sorts of skill sets, but not the same.
I think we should also consider that the forestry plans in our region are probably all very, very similar, and that their goals and their maintenance standards are all very similar. So is it possible that we don't necessarily have to, hire on a consultant when we have examples of forestry plans that are almost identical to what we would be advised from another professional? So in the same way that we have a draft tree ordinance in front of us that we got from a secondary source, we'd be able to look at the forestry plan for Brighton and other areas and look at, all right, and do a comparative analysis between those to be like, okay, these are very similar, they're not. Maybe that's when we decide whether or not we need one, that is specifically catered to Penfield, or are, the maintenance standards for Brighton very similar to Greece, and ultimately we can use that and leverage that to make our own forestry plan in those terms, since we already have a lot of the design criteria already based and written into, or the tree planting standards and the design criteria. So yeah, it's something else to consider, that, there's resources that we may have not, fully looked into and need to do a little bit more digging to see if there's, anything significantly different between the forestry plans in this region.
And it may be reasonable as well to go in that direction and at a later point, when we're further along with a draft forestry plan, have an arborist review
Yeah.
it. So it may be something that if it can't fit in the budget next year, then we take the next year after getting the tree ordinance approved to do a forestry plan and have that reviewed by an arborist when applicable.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that the timeline needs to
Yeah.
be, immediate, but to your point, there might be a lot of good examples out there, but check the sources, right? Like, were they done by a conservation board that just put it together, or was it done by somebody that was an arborist that had the skill set? to
Oh,
do it?
sure, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's an
Great.
important first step, and then there may be free resources as well that might be available already for draft planning or draft guides for, maybe as part of Tree City USA, there might even be some example documents.
Sure.
And I think that, yes, and just by the fact that we're trying to do this as something fluid, that obviously is, it can be enhanced, added to as things go along, because in terms of following another town example, I think that's an excellent idea. But within that, we at some point want to look at what would be unique to the topography and the layout of our town versus other municipalities.
Always start with a straw man and define the specifics
Yes.
as you go.
Okay, I think we've covered both of those discussion points fairly well now. Matt, I do appreciate that perspective again, that we don't need to start from scratch, that let's really take a look at what's out there. So given our time frame, I think we have about 10 minutes, maybe even 15, to dive into some of the comments beyond the ones that we've kind of circled around here. So you can kind of, if you want to go back to the top and...
So we had discussed that. Yeah, so,
So in this comment, Cynette is clarifying for the committee that this document is specifically for trees on public property, with the exception of emergency removal reference. So if there's something dangerous that part of the tree is on a residence lot, then the Department of Public Works may have to work with that resident to get it taken care of. But this does not refer to any trees on private land. In regards to, say, there's a tree in your backyard and I don't like it, I can't go to the town and say, please have that removed. Or say there's cottonwoods and I want all of the cottonwoods in town removed. I don't get to make that decision. And neither does the DPW. It's only for public land.
Okay.
Roy had made this comment today, specifically, mentioning how do HOAs fall, currently do anything in HOAs, public right-of-ways, other than reviewing and approving development plans fall under this.
I can answer that.
Yeah, sure.
So, for example, the development that we're actually looking at, we'll be reviewing as a committee, is going to have its own HOA. The road will be within the HOA lands, so that will not be considered public land. And that's how all other HOAs fall as well. Just like private roads also do not fall under public right-of-way, so they would not be considered public lands.
So even the stormwater sewer that goes through, that would be considered private sewer once it hits the private lands?
It depends on the project for that one.
If it's an HOA, yes. I mean, we would still take an inspection easement over it, so it gives the town the right to go in and make sure the pond is maintained, it's not filled in, it's there for a purpose. But if it's an HOA, it would still be a private stormwater pond. The only thing dedicated we take typically on an HOA is the sanitary sewer. So again, that would be in an easement. So we take dedication of the sanitary sewer, but the storm is private, the road's private, the pond is private. We would take an easement over it that gives us the right to go in and inspect and make sure that the day after it's built, they don't fill it in and say, well, we don't need this anymore, or we don't like it, it's mucky, or whatever. It was there for a purpose. So we would take an easement that gives us the inspection right over it, but it would still be on private property, private land for their maintenance.
And those, especially for the ponds, those easements also require formal inspections by an engineer every 3 years to ensure that the pond, or more specifically the stormwater maintenance facility, is working properly.
So any potential trees in those right-of-ways would not be the town's problem?
No, they would not. They would not be under our jurisdiction.
Are these things that Roy's mentioning, are they something that need to be specified or defined anywheres?
Basically, if it's private land, then the government doesn't have a say over it in that
Right,
regard.
okay.
There's nothing in our code that allows the town to have a say over a tree on your own property. But say a tree has part of its canopy hanging over in the right-of-way, then the town would have the jurisdiction to cut at the right-of-way line.
Sure. No, I meant his question specifically, is the HOA property considered private or not?
Yeah, I
I mean,
think-
I'm just asking, I'm not
I'm going
saying
to
it
guess
has
that
to be.
most residents don't ever think of that.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you know, it's, I think
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's just the idea, if you're in a neighborhood with an HOA, do you not realize that that's not a public street? That those aren't public trees, that those, you know, that's what, I just wonder if residents actually know that.
I can tell you that not all residents understand what a right-of-way is, and not all residents understand where their property is.
So to your point, should we define that so it's clear what public, when we say what a public tree is, should we say what it excludes?
It might not hurt if you want to take a stab at that within that definition of public trees or whatever, that's, you know, I mean, I think,
I had another point about that
or
definition
public
as well.
property.
Yeah, public property. But, so in this situation, the way it kind of reads right now is if there's a tree growing, let's say it's in the right of way and it's affecting a telephone line, would the town then be responsible for clearing that tree out of the way?
Most of the stuff that falls, electric falls under RG&E. So we, even on our own properties, don't get anywhere near the power lines that would fall under RG&E or fall under a tree service. RG&E has their own defined easement under poles and wires, so if there are trees, as you see, they kind of clear and carve out around utility poles and everything else. RG&E has their own easements requirements under that. So again, we could probably clarify that a little bit if that's needed.
Just wondering if that's in conflict with the way that it's actually worded there, which I think
And
is
say we
what
can
Roy
kind
was
of clear
saying.
that up, that,
Yeah,
you know, that would fall under RG&E's jurisdiction.
add something there that would fall on the public utility.
RG&E just came down our street and cleared up all our trees. You know, they got anything that was in the way of any of their lines.
Yeah, they've
know.
gotten, especially with storms, they've gotten beat up that they haven't done enough, so I think now they're going a little bit the other way, and they're clearing out anything and everything that gets anywhere near an electric line, so it's, you know, won't fall out in an ice storm or, you know, future storm event.
And what about telephone lines?
I have
Again, they
never
fall under-
seen
They
the
don't-
phone company come in other than when called because the services, I mean, we have,
Yeah, they're not as
RG&E lots of times
RG&E is very
coming
proactive. Frontier, you know, others aren't nearly as proactive on maintaining around their wires or their lines. Not to say they don't have the right to, but they just aren't.
These weren't RG&E trucks either. They were like Birch.
Oh,
RG&E contracts it out.
They sub it all out, but it's
Right.
under RG&E's
Yeah,
dollar.
I'm saying if you wouldn't have recognized a truck doing it.
Yeah, they hire sub-consultants or tree services to
Yeah.
do it for them.
So I have a tree limb that's growing around a telephone line.
You can call the telephone company. I say they're not nearly as
Yeah.
proactive as RG&E is for those.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or let
I
them
call
know
them, they
about
said
the
it's not their
problem.
problem.
Well, that's good.
So I'm just saying, like, the way this words, it would be the town's problem.
Yeah, that's probably a good spot for us to clarify.
Yeah.
We can clarify in that definition, utility maintenance.
Okay.
So where are we here?
Yes, I mean, I believe that this comment coming after here is also very similar to the kind of utility line maintenance, and we can, you know, further get definitions on that and trying to define that, I believe. Yeah, this shall include the removal of trees, threatened electro. So,
Yeah, we should clarify that. And that we can clarify to have it be, this shall include the removal of trees that may threaten stormwater and sewer lines, because that is what the town has control over.
That would take care of that.
And there's my little one here. Did you catch my little one here? I want to change
Coordinate
the
with public
definition.
utilities.
Where is it?
No, I want to change it. I think it's up in there somewhere. Change the word that we're using for public trees.
Oh, sorry.
Town trees. It's what everybody else was using instead
Oh,
of
town
public
trees.
trees. They
Okay.
called them town trees.
All
To me,
right.
it just sounded like a much clearer
Huh.
understanding of what trees we were talking about was.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Sure.
I don't know, if we call them town trees, I think we have to name them.
We can take that on in our part of our role as the tree council, naming of the trees.
Charlie over there in the North 40 is
Charlie the
looking a little
chestnut, huh?
wimpy right now. We better get in there.
He's our best town tree, though.
Yep. Okay, and on that note, I actually think we need to close down our work session and get through our new business here, just to honor the need for this room to be available for the public meeting tonight. So, keep the comments coming.
One thing, and I don't know where it ends up, is we still don't have a speaker for, did we make a decision on speaker for fall or whenever we're going to do this?
Nope.
I keep raising my little
Keep
finger
raising your
up.
hand. I think, yeah.
It's going to get cut off one of these times.
We had provided the committee members with a list of
Right, we
speakers
have
that
the
are an
list.
option, but the committee has not chosen one to move forward with for the staff to
Is it your desire
schedule.
that for the September
Yes, I
and/or
think we
October
really
meeting,
need to
you
get
really
it.
want a speaker? Okay.
Well, that we need to choose one to go forward, and we
Okay.
just hasn't made time for it.
Okay.
To just choose one and say who's going to go out and get them and such.
Do you want to choose one right now, or do you want to send an email back and forth and choose one, say, over the next week?
I'll leave that up to you.
I
Do you have a favorite?
Do you have anybody in mind? I think we have on there whether they charge or don't charge.
I have a very abbreviated list. Does that look about the same?
There's not a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a ton right now.
I don't think I printed since I think you added a couple and I don't think I reprinted it. Any preferences?
Just pick one.
Did we ever actually get Bruce in?
Bruce has not come in at this point.
So I'd vote for Bruce. Seeing as we're trying to develop,
Is there a specific topic you would like from Bruce?
Forestry plan.
Okay.
that's fine.
I will see if he can discuss that, and if he has a different list of topics that he can offer, I will send that out to the committee.
Okay.
And then the committee can pick one.
I know
is
we
there-
talked native trees is a possible topic.
Yep.
And it's usually like, 15, 20 minutes maybe?
Yep.
And I don't know if there's an extra charge.
It's okay if there's a charge. We do have funds for that.
Okay.
And like I said, I can get a list together. Would you like that in September, October? Is there a preference?
I would say September would be the first preference and October if it slides.
Great. I will reach out to Bruce.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's go on with the items here. New events. So
Sure,
we've got
so-
one new event. Is the potential
We do
for a
have one
speaker.
new event. It was mentioned to me that Color Penfield Green, with the help of the Citizens Climate Lobby, will be presenting under rec for the Inflation Reduction Act. This class will be July 20th from 1:30 to 2:30, or another class will be the same day from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Both of those classes, you can sign up online on the Penfield Rec website. And I don't know yet if they'll be both on Zoom or in person, but you can go to the Penn Rec website, or you can go to the town calendar to get more information about them. Specifically, what they're presenting for the Inflation Reduction Act is different incentives that the state has for energy efficiency upgrades, as well as electric vehicles and basically more renewable options for your life.
I think if there is an opportunity for any of us to go to one of those sessions, I think it would be a good show of support for Color Penfield Green, as specifically as they've done so much for us within the clean energy community actions.
What was the time frame for the afternoon?
There's a 1 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. as well as a 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And if you want, I can send out a link to the sign up.
Oh,
if
that would
that's
be great.
helpful.
That'd be great. I love free links. It's free because I don't have to take the time to look it up.
That's fun. Okay. Are there any other new events that anybody knows of that we didn't capture here? Okay. The second item then is the CFA letter.
Sure. So between the last meeting and this meeting, I sent out a draft Consolidated Funding Act letter for us to send on behalf of the committee, staff to send on behalf of the committee to Supervisor Draw to pursue funding for the pavilion/bathrooms at LaSalle's Landing Park. At this point, there is not a project designed, but we are hoping that that is a direction that the town can move forward with. And the Consolidated Funding Act would potentially allow us to get funding for it through that. So that letter was passed on. It was noted that we would like to have some sustainable measures in place, specifically for CFA, and not having an actual design. We can't define exactly what those measures are at this point. But as the design process moves forward, once we do have some kind of funding route, then we can actually take more definitive action.
Yeah, but you could put in the letter that you rewrite some of the things that we're thinking of considering from a sustainability standpoint. Even if it's not the design, you can just say
Did you have any definitive items?
LED lighting, for example, that'd be one you could put in there. I remember that project, you can go back to the meeting minutes from that meeting, but I listed a number of ones that we could potentially identify.
So, and I'm a little bit of the perspective of, let's see if we can give them our support to get the funding, and then we can make those requests when the design phase comes.
I think it will help the funding application, though, if you put in there that you're trying to go down the sustainable route.
So that's not something specifically that will get us extra points with the CFA letter. Yeah.
Just saying, people like to see that, especially the reviewers.
Okay.
I like that idea. It's, it's
Yeah, but I just.
adding a little extra, as long as it's not
Yeah. I know, I'm just concerned about us
belaboring
doing
it like too long.
anything to slow down the process, because I think the quicker they get the request for funding in there, the more likely they are to get funding. It's just always my concern. So. And I think throwing our support behind it already says that we've got eyes on it, and that
Okay.
expectation is
Okay.
that we are going to ask for sustainability features. I think that's an inherent in us saying that the Energy, Environment, and Conservation Committee, is part of this proposal.
Yeah. I mean, it could just be a sentence, right? Just an additional sentence, but whatever, it's fine, either
Okay.
way.
If it's easy to add something that says that sustainability will be a consideration in the project, and just leave it even at that, then,
I can go through it with the Director of Developmental Services and see what she needs.
okay. Then let's do that. Okay, any other new business that anybody has? Okay, then in that case, our next meeting is August 10th. hopefully we will once again have lots of comments to go through on our tree ordinance and an update on your visit to the project that we get to review. And in this case, can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Then that is approved as far as I'm concerned. So
Great.
we are ready to adjourn.